Hello, my name is Jack Amundsen, and today we're going through my classroom, my final presentation for the educational psychology class, the Sioux City Career Academy. And basically, we're going to be going through my classroom, why I choose these things, kind of like the design, and I'm going to go really in depth with it. So, first things first, what grade is this for, and for like what class? So this class setup would be for like 10, 12th graders for a public school system. And this will be American history. I find American history to be very underutilized. I feel like not a lot of people really care about it. And I basically want to make sure I give my students a more valuable and a more kind of like more of a better understanding of the history of our country. So I really want to go in depth with this, and I hope that my students will be able to enjoy American history as much as I do. Basically, I have this idea of like some core pillars. Basically, I have four things. I want them to have fun. I want them to have good vibes. I want them to learn. And I want them to be relaxed. I want them to be comfortable in a space because if you're not comfortable somewhere, you're never going to learn. And I find that having a comfortable area of my classroom, I find that to be amazing, and it'll help my students kind of learn more. And so first things first of the physical layout, basically if we have four walls, the northern wall, that would basically hold my desk, a whiteboard, a smart board, and a table where I have assignments placed where the students will turn it in. And on top, I would have a history quote. Um, I think that this is just like something basic. I especially want artwork from other students and myself all around the room. And the reason I want to do this is I want to show students that um, I feel like it's good that we have unity in different classes, and I feel like if everybody pitches in, it'll make our class much more enjoyable than if it were just a regular room. My desk area would just be a giant wooden desk with a bunch of like posters, baseball jerseys, knickknacks all over my desk. I want my students to show. I want to show my students that if I'm comfortable, they can be comfortable too. Monkey see, monkey do, and I feel like it can also show off a little bit of my personality. Sometimes teachers don't really have a personality, and I feel like that showing myself to my students and being vulnerable and showing them that hey, I care and this is all my stuff. I feel like it'll provide more, like I said, more unity. The historical quote would be from Pearl S. Buck. If you want to understand today, you have to search to yesterday. I find this very good for history itself because the way we have it right now, everything leading up to this moment, we should look back on. From America just getting started to the Industrial Revolution to the Wild West to the wars. I feel like it's all really important, and I'd love to get more into it. The western wall would basically consist of large windows and a large wooden wheel and a cardboard cutout. Basically, I want a lot of natural lighting. I feel like um, natural lighting boosts productivity in students and makes them more focused, makes them more relaxed. Um, I want the large wooden steering wheel, like a pirate ship steering wheel. I want that so it can kind of have some fun and kind of have some personality in the classroom. I also want a cardboard cutout of a historical figure from whatever unit we are learning. If we're learning about the Wild West, then I would put Billy the Kid. If we're learning about war, I would put in General MacArthur. If we're learning about presidents, I would put a president. And I feel like it kind of shows and it brings more kind of attention to the students and kind of shows them like, hey, this guy isn't all bad. And plus, I think it's a really neat idea. The southern wall would basically be a giant board where students can vote on subjects. And basically, my thought process is that democracy in a classroom, I want that to be very pivotal. I want students to vote on things that way that if we can all agree on something. Things like, hey, this unit, are we going to learn about the Wild West, or are we going to learn about the American Civil War, or are we going to learn about American civil rights? And I want them to pick and vote. I would also let them pick and vote on different aspects of the classroom, and I'll go more in depth with that later. The eastern wall would have a bunch of large wooden cupboards, and they would basically take the length of the whole wall. these would hold supplies, they would hold textbooks, hold everything else so that every student has it. I would want a good chunk of posters, mostly like old propaganda posters and history posters. Um, I kind of want to show the students that like I care about history and they can look back on that kind of stuff. Um, and here's really the meat and potatoes of everything. So vibes. I find vibes to be like the single-handedly the most important thing in any classroom. Harsh lighting, no sunlight. I've been in plenty of those classes before. Nobody does anything. Nobody likes being in those kind of classrooms. Nobody likes to be in those kind of rooms. So I want to have a lot of soft lighting. If I can't have those big windows, I want to have a lot of soft lighting, and LED lights. I think the coolest idea for the LED lights is, since you can change them in any color, I would love if we were doing a unit where if we ever do a unit, I can change the color to kind of symbolize the environment they were in. If we're learning about the Industrial Revolution, there's a lot of smoke, a lot of smog, so I'd have a lot of like gray in there. If we were learning about the Wild West, I'd put a lot of oranges and yellows. If we were learning about like the American Revolutionary War, right? There's a lot of gunfire, so I'd have it, with some blue and then orange and yellow and red and then blue again. And I think that'd be really awesome. And I think that's a good vibe to have. So it not only does it bring the students to be more in depth with the activity, but it also shows them, hey, this is kind of what it's like. Another thing I would want is to make sure that everybody's engaged. That's my biggest concern. I just want to make sure everybody's engaged, everybody's having fun. So I would add surround sound bars all over the walls so that if we're ever listening to music, and especially if we're ever watching a movie or a video, they can really be immersed into it. If we're watching a war documentary, they can hear the sounds of the gunfire, and they can hear the sounds of men yelling, and along with the LED lights, it makes it super immersive. For myself, I would love to dress up every unit. Dress up as something different. So as a soldier, a cowboy, Industrial Revolution, a steel worker, or even for Lewis and Clark, an explorer. I find that to be awesome, and it brings not only my students to show them that I care and that I'm having fun, but they can have fun too. Student voice and productivity. Like I said earlier, I want my students to be able to vote. I want them to vote on assignments, lessons, everything they could be learning into the classroom. I want every student to have a form of something of themselves in the room as well. I love to draw. I love art. My favorite thing to see is when other students put art for teachers in the classroom. So I would love to have a bunch of students have art posted all over my walls. And not only does it make the student experience so much better, but it makes my experience so much better. I would also have all my supplies in the cupboards, like I said earlier, basically holding textbooks, pens, pencils, any necessary items for a classroom. Um, and Student voice and productivity part two. I would also love to add a snack shack. I love food. Food is where I really show my love. And basically, what I'd want is I want my students to be able to eat as well. They would have to pay for it. And when I get the money, then I pay for other things that they want, whether that's new chairs, new different kinds of food, all that kind of stuff. I also want them to vote on the food they can have, whether it's just basic snacks like chips or if it's something like a drink or whatever. I want them to tell me what they want, because if there's somebody with a dietary restriction for religious reasons, or they just can't eat like gluten or dairy or whatever, I want them to be accessible, and I want them to be able to eat whatever they can eat. Make sure everybody's included. Seating will also be voted on the students. Basically, how the tables are arranged, what chairs we can have, what spaces we could look like. We could have the class look like a U. We could have the class just be a giant circle for the seating. We could have different groups. I find that to be the best part. I feel like once we have a unity, once every class could agree on something, then we will be okay. Biggest thing is inclusivity. So American history isn't really known for being inclusive, especially in the past, where you had Native American suffrage, you had different immigrant groups get isolated. And whenever I'm going to be talking about and learning and teaching these kids, I want there to be some form of inclusivity that isn't just, white guys in warfare, right? I want them to learn also what was going on at this time in this part of the country in this certain demographic. Specifically, one thing that would really come to mind is during World War II, right? There's the battles going on, but at the same time, there's also Jackie Robinson who's breaking the color barrier, and I want to focus on that, focus on everything else. Technology, I want a giant smartboard, and I would have a whiteboard next to it as well. The whiteboard would basically be like a check-in, just say, hey, this is what is due this week, this is what's due the next week, and the smartboard would just be how I teach. That would just be like making sure to have like videos and stuff on there, or if we're having to do a PowerPoint, they can look up there. I'm also perfectly fine if they have computers. I'll make sure to bring as many like extension cords and outlets as possible so that they can learn and they can be able to charge their computers. Expectations, I have a giant expectations poster. Just basically letting the students like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how I work. And I really, at the end of the day, I want them to make sure that my students have fun, they're happy, and they also learn. Teaching isn't all about fun, it's also about making sure that your children, your students, they get to learn information that they haven't learned before, and they're able to use that into their life. Emotions, to manage behavior, a bigger issue that's happening now is a lot of students are throwing Chromebooks, they're fighting, they're doing all this stuff, and I will make sure, without a shadow of a doubt, if there was multiple students who were just fighting each other, it's causing a ruckus. I'll make sure that I shut those blinds on those windows. I'll make sure to turn off all the LED lights, turn off all the speakers, and they can just get the harsh lighting. That's all they need. If they're going to act bad, I will be more than willing to make sure that they don't have things that I've given to them. And when they can earn that stuff back, then by all means. I also have some more miscellaneous stuff. Um, I had an idea of having a giant Declaration of Independence rug so that the students could also learn and they could also like realize like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'd want a little space, I want a little area where students can go to during work time just to kind of relax, just kind of have fun. And I think at the end of the day, at the end of this, the bottom line is I want to make sure that students have fun. I want to make sure that they're learning. I want to make sure that they're having an overall good experience. So thank you for watching this, and I will see you later.